sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Where'd it go? There it is. All right. Hello, everyone. We are Team Excalibur with LearnLeaf Organizer. I am Elliot, and I'm presenting today with Emmanuel, Ian, Ben, and Nick. There we go. So the problem that we're trying to fix with LearnLeaf is that there are a ton of organization tools out there, but most are not specific to students' needs. And so we wanted to create something that would combine all of these things and primarily to prevent missed assignments, which as students is a huge issue. And also wanted to have mobile access for task management as students primarily check their assignments from their phones. And so we wanted that to be accessible from any device. And so the customer wanted a centralized tool with cross-platform support, namely, between laptop, phone, and tablet, and also LMS integration and customizable notifications. And so the goals were to have usability, accessibility, LMS integration and expansion, and real-time syncing between devices. So the background of LearnLeaf is that it did already exist, but as a web-only assignment manager, and it only supported basic task creation, organization, and calendar view. And like I said, there are a ton of other task organizers out there, such as Trello, Monday, and the one students use a lot is spreadsheets such as Google Sheets. And how LearnLeaf is different is that it combines all of these things into one place. It is an assignment-specific management system tailored for student tasks, which, as we know, are different than, say, your day-to-day tasks or work tasks. And this is primarily enhanced with subject-based and project-based organization and integration with LMSs or learning management systems such as Canvas. And like I said, LearnLeaf combines all of those other tools, which students typically use separately to manage their assignments. So some of the key requirements for LearnLeaf are an intuitive task creation and management, timely reminders to prevent those notorious mistasked, data synchronization across devices, like between your laptop and your phone, a mobile first responsive design, because as I mentioned, students primarily need to check these things on their phones, and LMS integration. And the importance of these is that they were driven by student feedback in order to improve organization and productivity. So some of these key features and their benefits are the assignment management, so students can track, organize, and prioritize their assignments. And the benefit of this is keeping all of the assignments in a single location, easy to see and manage. A calendar integration where you can view all of your assignments and due dates in a calendar view, which reduces the need for manual tracking, like having to go to each assignment and see when they're due. It's out of view. Notifications and reminders, so you can have customizable reminders in order to, know when you have an assignment coming up. That way you're not going to miss it or wait until the last minute to do it. And finally, LMS integration, so syncing from Canvas, Blackboard, etc., to eliminate that manual entry. So this saves time and always keeps your assignments up to date since it's directly linked to your school's account. Now I'm going to pass it to Nick to start us off on the ADS.
I see. My name is Nick, and to start with the ADS, just the overview diagram. The two main things this diagram is trying to convey, if it's not already clear, is that there's a difference between the mobile app version and the progressive web app version. And then the second thing is that they both communicate to the same database. So if you have an account and you log into the PWA and you make changes, and you log into the mobile, those changes are going to be reflected, and vice versa. Um, the reason we converted the website into a progressive web app is to just cover all of our bases. It can be accessed from your computer, obviously, but tablets and iPhones, it can also be downloaded as an app in addition to being accessed through your browser. Um, but we also have a mobile app because a lot of people are just more comfortable going through uh, the Android App Store, and that's just a more familiar environment for a lot of people. Um, and I believe I already talked about the database, so let's go to the next slide. So this is the front end architecture for the mobile app, and it's pretty similar to the front end architecture for the website, but the mobile app has less features, um, primarily because it's such a new development, and we wanted to limit our scope so we could be more successful. Um, but essentially, what we have here is connections between Firebase tools, each page of the app, and the navigation bar. Navigation bar does what it says on the tin, and the Firebase tools is how information is fed from the database to each of the pages in the mobile app. And in each of these pages, kind of have a description of the specific behavior or data that is necessary for that page. That page is going to have to pull from Firebase. Uh, Not every page needs all the functionality and all the data. So we try to just associate what's necessary. Um, and I think that was everything I wanted to cover there. Let's go to the next slide. So this one is the back end for the mobile app is going to look very similar to the back end for the website that Ian's going to go over here in a second. But the key difference is the location of that little box uh, in the center there, Firebase functions. For the mobile app, because of the way that the back end is, because of certain restrictions, what we actually need to do is, I'm going to paraphrase here, but we essentially need to copy all of the data from Firestore DB into like a local cache, so to speak, on the phone. And it's going to persist in the memory of your phone. And then the backend is going to interact with that local cache rather than constantly making calls to the remote database. And so that's why we have this little box around the LearnLeaf functions. Um, and then I think that was everything I wanted to cover. Um, yeah, that's basically it. Each of the pages interact with the local cache, and then the local cache every so often um, pulls from the remote Firestore base. Um, and this way it'll persist even if your phone disconnects and you lose access to the internet, you can still have all your data there, and you're not going to lose it. So, uh, but now I'm going to pass it over to Ian, and he's going to talk about the front and back end for the recent web app.
Hey guys, I'm Ian. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the progressive web application front end and back end. So first talking about the front end, obviously it's very similar to the mobile application. That was on purpose. We wanted to make the UI as close to matching as possible to make user experience and like crossover really easy. One of the primary differences that you'll see is that we have a couple of extra features like the calendar page and the archives page. All that those are doing is adding organizational tools So calendar organizes your tasks in a way that makes it really easy to see what's coming up. And then the archives page holds like all of your old tasks from previous classes. So if you wanted to go back and revisit that stuff. So a couple things that are a little different is that we really focused on adding optimizations like lazy loading and stuff like that, because progressive web application, we want it to be as efficient as possible. So features like that make loading the data for each page like as responsive as possible, because we don't necessarily know the capabilities of the system that we're going to be running on with the PWA. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, this is the backend. You'll notice that the Firebase functions aren't really in like the nice little pages box. And that's because all of the pages are, their own like HTML files, and Firebase, it interacts with those, but it's like separate. So the key difference between the PWA backend and the mobile backend is that we actually have a separate database, IndexedDB, that's stored locally. It's somewhat similar to how the mobile does things, except that the mobile application actually stores all of that database information like locally to the application. IndexedDB is stored in browser memory. It's separate from like your cookies cache, but somewhat similar to that idea, so that we can still run without an internet connection. We update Firestore database with changes made to index and vice versa. And the idea of having the Firebase functions kind of outside of here is that each page will communicate with the functions, and then the functions will simultaneously modify Firestore and IndexedDB. And I think that's it for that. Next page. Yeah, so this is a quick little diagram of what our database looks like. It's fairly simple. Because it is a relational database, it meets the requirements for normal form 1. It just means that that changes and modifications made to one table shouldn't propagate changes to every single table in the database. So it makes it easier to manage propagation of changes for edit and deletion tasks. So yeah, we've got role-based access control, and the data is encrypted. So essentially, once the user logs in, they'll have access to only the data that is listed under their user ID. And then because the PWA and mobile app are both synced to the same database, obviously they share data. So any changes that are made to one are kind of automatically pushed up to the other. So yeah, next page.
All right. So Nick gave an explanation earlier about the mobile architecture with the front end and the back end, which is what we went with for the ADS. But I wanted to give a bit more technical explanation of the file architecture and the navigation on the mobile and how everything is accessing each other and communicating with each other. So we'll start on the left side there. You've got the pages. This is every page that's going to be very obviously available to the user. You've got the login and sign up, and those connect with the Firebase, which I'll explain later. And then below that, you've got the 4 pages that are user authenticated required for access. So for those 4 pages, you have to be logged in to access that information unless you're a really good hacker or something. So those will definitely be accessed, but on the right, the dialog menu has submenus that may or may not be accessed depending on what use case you are using or how the user is interacting with the app at any time. And then to the bottom right, you've got the fragment blocks. This is small blocks of information that populate or always exist. In the case of the navigation, that is a toolbar at the top that rides along no matter what page you're on and allows navigation to each of the different pages except the login and sign up. And it also has an access to a logout option that will take you back to the sign up. The item block and the task item block are populated as needed to show subjects, projects, tasks. And a use case for this, as an example, would be a user creating an account and creating a new task. As the user enters or opens the app for the first time, they're directed to the sign up page. If they already have an account, they can jump to the login page, but if not, then they enter their user information there. That user information goes to the Firebase.java that is inside the mobile app. It also contains the local database. And then that's sent off to the remote database, which is Firebase Online. So then the user is directed to the login page where they'll enter the credentials. That's authorized through the Firebase.java and then to the remote database. And as long as everything matches, then that user is then sent down to the tasks page, which is the general landing page if you are already logged in. The mobile app really only requires you to log in one time, and then as long as you don't log out, you're always logged in. So you'll always land on this tasks page. To create a new task, they would open the Create Task submenu, which is over in the dialog menus. That's where they would enter the information for the new task. And once they close that, it goes back to the tasks and then to the Firebase.java to complete the the creating new task that updates the remote database. And then that's available on the mobile app or the online progressive web application. So if you would go to the next slide and start the video. So this is going to be a demo so that you can see kind of how that interaction looks in the user interface. This is the tasks page, which is where you land whenever you are already logged in. And it has all of the information there in the task item block. This is the submenu that would have been in the dialogues. And as you can see, I'm just creating a junk task. This has spinners that are connected to arrays stored on the mobile app that you can select from. And with the start date, it opens a calendar for you so that you can pick the date that it's due and the date that it starts. That also ensures that the format is correct whenever it's updating to the database. And then the time that it's due, you also have an option to enter that in a way that will ensure that the format is correct. So as you can see, that created the new task there at the bottom, task CB. And it includes all the information that we just entered. You can edit the task, which here I think I just changed the task name to an actual task so that you can see how that's going to look. So then update there, and you can see that it changed the title to actual task. Every item block is going to have edit and delete, and every page, for the most part, is going to have that add new button there at the bottom. When you create a task, if the subject and project don't already exist, it will create that subject for you. As you can see here, it created subject A. Boom. And then with the project, it also created a new project called B. And this is just the junk names that I entered. But you can see all of the project information there and the subject information on the other page. I'm going to change the project name to actual projects so that I can show how the database is going to reference itself. Here, it updates automatically through the local database so that you can see it instantly, but it also sends it off to the remote database. Then whenever you open the tasks page, it pulls all of that information and uses the reference inside of tasks to access the project so that it shows actual project there. You update it in one location and it updates in the other location. So I'm deleting the task here. It pops up a menu that says, are you sure you want to delete this? But it does not delete the subjects and projects. You have to manually go in and delete those because sometimes you might want to keep a subject even though you've finished the task that was referencing that subject. So the actual project, I'm going to delete that. And the profile page has not been set up yet. It's on the task list for this sprint. Whenever you log out, you can see the sign up page. Aesthetically, it still needs some div centering and stuff like that. But that's the mobile app that we have so far. But there are changes to come. So I'm going to pass it off to Emmanuel, and he's going to talk about the progressive web application.
Hi, I'm Emmanuel, and we're gonna just see like the demo of like the PWA. So first of all, on the home page, you can like add like a new task with like a new subject and a new project. And as you can see, we're just like just putting in like the details of like the project. And now we're like just setting like the priority and then like adding like the due date of like the task. Now, as you can see, we have added the task. Now we can as well, edit the task as well from like the, button. And now we can also like edit the task from like the, widget as well. So now we can click on the subject and like edit the subject as well. And then like when you're done, like you can change like the color of like the, outline to like your favorite color for like your subject. And now once you click on the subject, you can see like the connected task associated with like that subject. As you can see here, we have demo, which is like the connected task. And now this project is going to show you like the status of your project. And you can as well, edit the project and like add like, a new subject or like multiple subjects as well. And now we're like in the calendar page. Now you can see like the tags that you have and like the task details. And then you can also like, just edit the task. Once you click on like a particular date, you can see like the task name. And then like the date is going to be set like the unclicked date. And then once you click on the add new task, you can just put in like the details and then the date is going to be set to like the today's date. Now you can as well, import tags as well. For those of you that love using spreadsheets, you can just put in like the details of like the task, and it's gonna like just automatically create it for you. And then for like a particular task, once you set it to like completed, it archives like the task and puts it in like the archives page. And you can as well, reactivate the task, if you want to like change anything. And also like you can also like archive like the subject and it's going to give you like a confirmation note. And you can also like archive like the project as well. And as you can see, it's right here. And also like the user profile, contains like the name of like the user, the email, the user preferences, and like the user can like just like change the time and date format and can like enable like email notifications at like any frequency the user wants. Thank you.
Okay, so for our next steps, in Sprint 4 that we're currently in, we are working on implementing our Canvas integration, finalizing the Android mobile app, making some UI UX improvements, and also some account management improvements such as single sign-on. And we will be working a little bit over winter break on things like code cleanup, just to make the code a little bit more readable, and also recruiting testers for mobile deployment, which I'll talk about in the next slide a little bit more. And then for senior design 2, we plan to expand our LMS integration, so adding Blackboard integration, for example. We also plan to start developing an iOS app version of this and deploying the Android app. And if we need more tasks to do for senior design, then potentially adding multi-user or shared tasks implementation so that multiple users can share a task. Say they're working on a group project together, they can both track and edit that task. So before we get into questions, we do have these two QR codes. If any of you are interested in trying out LearnLeaf, that top QR code is for the PWA, so you can test that out, see what you think, and maybe use it. You know, it's useful. And the bottom QR code is a Google form. So if you are interested in being a beta tester, then you can fill that out. The Android will be ready for beta testing much sooner than iOS, but we definitely will need both. So no matter your operating system, you know, feel free to register for that. Okay, any questions?
Questions from class first?